Hey guys, coming at you tonight with a special Facebook Live. The title tonight is 8 Reasons to Celebrate. I know that we've got a long way to go in this cause on many different issues, and there's a tendency to almost get overwhelmed some days and think, my gosh, are we making any kind of progress at all? But I'll tell you what, the last 2 months, there have been some major accomplishments. Now, once again, this isn't to say that we've arrived by any means whatsoever. And matter of fact, we still have like 99% to go. But at least there have been some major accomplishments that have happened. I'm going to touch on briefly 8 different things that I think are reasons for us to celebrate. That at least the things are starting to go in the right direction. One of which was the Ohio Supreme Court ruling. That was a case of adoption, where they literally stopped an adoption and handed the child back to the father. That was a huge case that's going to have implications all across the country. Second thing, right here in Missouri, and for the Missouri team here, we are so proud of this guy, Kenneth Goings, who's been a part from the beginning of the St. Louis team. Matter of fact, before I even got involved, as an attorney, a family law attorney in Missouri. He was actually asked to speak at the Family Bar Association conference on shared parenting. Guys, that is huge when a shared parenting supporter is able to speak on shared parenting at a bar association's annual conference for an entire state. So we're extremely proud of Kenneth. I wasn't able to go, but Jeremy and Linda said that he just did a great job down there. So really proud of Kenneth for that. The third thing that we have to celebrate is Michigan, HB 4691. Jim Runstead, who you've heard me talk about in the past, is the chair of the Judiciary Committee up in Michigan. That is huge to have a supporter of shared parenting be the chair of the Judiciary Committee. Traditionally, nationwide, the place where every bill is going to stall out, if a bill is going to stall out, which most of them do, the place that it's going to stall out is the Judiciary Committee. And so to have a chair of a committee actually be the sponsor of a bill, it did pass the Judiciary Committee. Michigan works on kind of a different schedule than a lot of states, so they're going to be coming back to session again in a little over another month to pick it up on the House floor. But major hurdle already overcome. Now they do, unfortunately it's in Michigan, so they've got a lot more hurdles to go. But really proud of Jim, and I think that is a reason to celebrate. Reason number 4, North Dakota. Leading Women for Shared Parenting did a study, which we've all known all along, that there's a wide disparity, a wide variance of rulings from county to county. And one thing that we hear over and over when we go in front of a House panel or a Senate panel from the opposition is, well, you really don't need a bill like this because it's already kind of standard across the state. Well, as we know, it's not. There's huge variances depending on what judge you're going to get, what county you're at, the philosophy and the culture within that county. And we finally actually have a study now conducted by Leading Women of Shared Parenting in North Dakota that shows a wide variance in rulings for the cases that went before a court. That actually the disparity was anywhere from 24% to 48% of the rulings that went for joint custody. Now that's not 50-50 shared parenting. That's just joint custody that they ruled. But the disparity was literally from 24% to 48% based on the 8 judicial districts. So that was huge. So we appreciate Leading Women of Shared Parenting for conducting that study. I think we're going to see more studies coming out from them over the next year. Number 5, the New Jersey Supreme Court ruling that just came out. And this is one in which a mother was attempting to move to Utah and take the children with her because she was the custodial parent. And in the past, the overriding philosophy was that a child is the happiest when the custodial parent is the happiest, because that's when they're spending the most time with. And as a result, parents were allowed to take a child from New Jersey and move to another state because supposedly the best interest of the child was that since the custodial parent would be happy in the new state, the children would be happiest. And that was totally overruled and turned back when they overrode that case. And now the children have to be brought back to New Jersey. So the new ruling in favor of the father shows and supports the social science, showing that children need continuous contact with both parents. Probably the best reason to celebrate of all, number 6, is the Supreme Court ruling that came down in June. just a little over a month and a half ago. And I apologize. Supreme Court rulings are not my specialty. So I know there's a lot of people out there. I think of like Ron and Sherry Palmer and Brian and Jay and even people in my Missouri team, Jeremy, Linda, Kenneth, Scott, know a lot more expertise in this area. So let me try and dissect it from somebody without getting into all the legal jargon. But the case, it was the Sessions versus Morales case in June. And the case really wasn't a family law case. It was actually an immigration case. However, it did have huge implications for us, huge implications in regard to family law. And it's one of the few family law cases, or few Supreme Court cases, that they actually decided family law based on the basis of fundamental rights. And that's especially important because that'll have the constitutional principles that it sets out, that in the majority opinion by Ginsburg, it's now going to apply to all laws, both state and federal. So this is going to have huge implications across the country. But the court really seems to have made a deliberate attempt in their statement, a deliberate statement, if you will, about fathers' rights. Justice Ginsburg, and I'll go ahead and read it, but she basically struck down a law that assumes unwed mothers influence their children more than unwed fathers. And in her statement, this is what she actually said. No important governmental interest is served by laws grounded in the obsolescing view that unwed fathers are invariably less qualified and entitled than mothers to take responsibility for non-marital children. More generally, when a law's objective is to exclude or protect members of one gender in reliance on fixed notions concerning that gender's role and abilities, the objective itself is illegitimate. And I think that's going to have huge implications. And like I said, I'm not a law expert, so I don't mean to try and pull myself, you can obviously tell. But like I said, for those of you that aren't as detailed in the law, trust me, that's going to have huge implications for us nationwide. The last two just have more to do with the tone and the way things are changing across the country. In the past, the only way for fathers or anyone going for shared parenting to try and get their get attention to the cause was to protest. And unfortunately, things have changed quite a bit. I give you the analogy, some of you that are old enough to remember, I remember in the 80s where one of the most effective methods of marketing was telemarketing. And it was still kind of new at the time, and it was very, very effective. However, it got so overused that it is now to the point, well, first off, most people are on the no-call list. But does anybody remember the late 90s and the turn of the century when telemarketers, they were about as low as you got if you got a telemarketing call. And people would always screen, they'd look for caller ID to see who the call was from because they didn't want to even answer the phone if it was a telemarketer. And then in the 90s, faxes were a big thing. Anybody that worked at a company that had a fax machine can remember in the 90s just constant marketing through fax machines. And it was very effective in the 90s. However, it became so overused that people, they would just wad them up and throw them away if they realized it was an ad. And there was a time back in the 60s when protests were extremely efficient. We didn't have social media back then. We didn't have ways of connecting. So if you could gather large groups of people, you had a high probability of getting some TV presence, of getting some radio support. And so there was a time, and there still is a time and a place for that. I don't mean to say that protests are totally ineffective and you should never do them. I hope I don't offend anybody who organizes any protests. There still is a time and a place. But by and large, people have gotten, if you will, protest fatigue. Especially recently, when you look at Ferguson and Baltimore, the overriding majority of the population, when they see a protest, just feel like, oh my gosh, what is this protest going on? And they will avoid it. Now, there is a certain percentage, about 7% of the population, they like conflict, so it doesn't matter what the protest is, they're going to go check it out. Unfortunately, the people we need to reach are legislators, at least in my sphere. Like I said, I know there's a bunch of other things that need to be taken care of. So I don't mean to rule out people that are following like the CPS movements, judicial accountability, things like that. I'm primarily talking about people that are dealing with legislators trying to get statewide legislation passed for shared parenting. Unfortunately, that has a negative effect. Once the door has been opened and there's a dialogue, protests seem to have a negative effect. The hardest part is getting the dialogue started. Well, we've now got the dialogue started all across the country. We've been having events, and some of you have started realizing that some of you saw the event that we had about a month ago in St. Louis, where we had quite a few different state senators, state reps attend. We got some front page coverage in the St. Louis newspapers. The word got out, and I'm not exaggerating. I've now had 15 different state legislators give me a call wanting to be a part of our next event. You talk about a difference between us chasing legislators and now legislators chasing us, saying, hey, we want to be a part of it. Matter of fact, I actually got a call from the governor of our state wanting to set up a meeting. Now, there's a couple other things I'll be talking to him about at that meeting. But one of them I can guarantee you, high up on that priority list is going to be shared parenting. That'll be the end of this month. We'll shoot out a message later on. I'm going to try and set up a meeting with the entire Missouri team with him when that time comes. But just huge. So we've been having some very successful events. We've got some scheduled throughout Missouri over the next couple months in Cape Girardeau and Springfield. Eventually going to be doing some in Columbia and Kansas City. We've got some going on across the country. This Saturday down in Kentucky, Representative Jason Petrie, who was the one who sponsored the bill that got passed in Kentucky this year, he's having an event in Bowling Green. So if you live anywhere within about an hour-and-a-half radius of Bowling Green, Kentucky, we need you in Kentucky, in Bowling Green this Saturday. It's going to be at 3 o'clock at the Warren County Public Library. But we definitely need you supporting there. Michigan is having events. Matter of fact, I think it's the 21st and 22nd, the day of the eclipse, and then on Tuesday, Jim Runstead's having events. And then we're going to have a massive event in Springfield, Illinois, coming up in November. And I'll tell you what, Illinois is just doing a great job. There's Jesse West Sr., for those of you who didn't have here, put together a float. There's a bunch of us organizations that had our name on it, but I'll just tell you, Jesse gets all the credit. He did all the work, designed the float, did a great job, and literally got first place in the, I forget what the category is. I think it's the non-business category or something like that. But first place in the Illinois State Fair for a float. So very, very positive thing coming out. And that goes into the final thing is the unity that's developing. You know, people will run away from conflict, but they will gather around unity. If they realize people are coming together, they don't want to be left out. And there's a unity developing across the country right now with some of these events that are taking place. We've got the Fathers' Rights Movement. We've got Leading Women for Shared Parenting. We got the National Parenting Organization. We have the Americans for Equal Shared Parenting. We have Dads Can Too. We've got Illinois Fathers for Equality. There are organizations coming together to say, you know what, let's lock arms and see what we can do. If we all join hands together and take a positive approach, build some relationships with legislators, we're going to create a tidal wave across the country where, as I said, every state across the country, legislators are going to seek us out. We won't be seeking them out right anymore. They're going to be seeking us out because they're going to realize this is an organization that is building numbers. And I'll tell you what, you build numbers, you will get the attention of the legislators. They do not want to be left out. So guys, I'm excited as all get out. Like I said, 8 big reasons to celebrate, all within the last 60 days or so. The tide is turning. There is definitely something going on. And to realize this is the off season. This is when most legislators, most legislatures across the country are out for the session. And we're already getting this kind of positive news. Imagine what's going to happen in 2018. That we have already got things lined up and in place in quite a few states across the country that I think this is going to be the year we are going to get some serious bills passed. We do need your help, though. If you want to help, I think most of you know, now this is a reverse, I apologize. Next week, though, I do have a new banner coming that's going to be a mirror image, so you'll be able to read this the correct way instead of trying to be dyslexic. But if you haven't yet, we're going to need your help. AFESP, the abbreviations for Americans for Equal Shared Parenting. The reason we're doing that is the Fathers' Rights Movement is limited because they're a 501c3 into how much political activity and legislative activity that they can have. So I'm working together with them to create a separate entity. Now I'll be dealing with them directly and dealing with Jeremy Roberts, who's pretty much been the lead with Missouri. And most of our goal is to have Jeremy have an input in every single one of the states that are writing legislation. So if you're writing legislation in any state across the country, it would help if you'd get in contact with me or Jeremy. What is going to help so much, if every state has a bill that's semi-similar in verbiage, we're going to have a much better chance of getting bills passed across the country. So if you're looking at writing a bill in 2018, please get in contact with one of us. But the other thing we need, if you're not writing the bill, which most people, myself included, I don't get it. Somebody asked me from New Jersey for input today, and I was like, you know what, I'd rather have Jeremy's input. That's his specialty. My specialty is media relations, public awareness, legislative connections. We need to have people that have specialties in different areas. But because that is my specialty, I need your help with some of the awareness and some of the call to actions we're going to be doing. So if you're wanting to get involved next year, I need your help. If you haven't done it yet, please go to AFESP, Americans for Equal Shared Parenting abbreviation, AFESP.com. There'll be a button on there that'll say subscribe. Subscribe. You're not subscribing to anything that's going to charge any money or anything. You won't get bombarded with a million emails. But we need to be able to have a stealth campaign in place so that when your state is in play next year, we can reach you. The last thing you want to do is do a call to action on a public forum like this, because you alert the opposition, who already has quite a bit of resources, to do twice as, and actually 10 times the amount of call to action we can do. So we need to be able to do it by email. So please, click the subscribe button on that website. Enter your email, your city, and your state. Those are and your name. Those are the 4 most important things. Name, email, city, and state. There's 4 other questions that'll help us with demographics, as far as how much time you get with your child, how long your custody battle was, what county you're in, things like that. But we need your name, your email, your city, and your state. We need your help, but now is the time. We can't wait until right before a bill gets passed and then tell everybody, hey, quick, we're going to need your help next week sending an email to your legislator. We need now to get that database set up. And we're going to be sending you ideas of what to say to legislators, what not to say to legislators in your email, and how to contact them. So we need that database now. So please, I can't say this enough, please get on that database right now. If you're a state that is in play, you will have access to this database. So please contact me. If you're working on a bill, we will be putting information about your bill at strategic times through these emails that we send out. We're going to try and only send out about 1 or 2 emails a month. Unless a state is in play, we're going to send out a critical one, like when it goes to a House committee or a Senate committee. But please, guys, do me a favor. AFESP.com, subscribe, enter your name, city, state, and email. We're going to need that information. As I said, the tide is changing. Momentum is behind us now. We are starting to get some things accomplished. But we can't get it accomplished just by ourselves. We are going to need some people that can write some letters. So please, 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 get your information in there. So thanks again, guys, and we will be talking to you later.